Hello YouTube! Today I'm gonna talk about the autumn 2017 harvest. So to drink along during this session, on my right we have our Gushu version of our tea from Ancient Tea Gardens from autumn 2017, and on my left we have the Natural Tea Gardens version, the Shengtai, Jingmai Shengtai. Yeah, let's start by brewing those two teas. I'm gonna brew them in parallel and just see what we can get from them. So you can have a look at the leaves. This is the Gushu version. I'm gonna take about 7 grams, 8 grams, and here is the autumn version. So have a look at the new design we made. So the designs are made by a friend of ours who lives in Kunming. We've been working together for maybe 3 or 4 years, and I think he's doing quite a good job. And the design we used for the Gushu version is from 2015. We used this design already to make our spring 2015 Shengtai. So to make the difference, we stamped a Gushu. Have a look at this tea cake here. Let me show you. Can you see the difference between the two cakes? So here I'm holding the Shengtai version, Natural Tea Gardens, and here is the Gushu version. You can see that they look quite alike. Maybe on average the Gushu version has bigger leaves, but it's pretty hard to tell. Well, the Shengtai version should be more tippy, it should have more buds, because we harvested a lot of 1 bud 2 leaves. But the thing is, if you soak the yellow flakes well in the tea, you get almost the same tippiness, because the big problem in autumn is we get a lot of yellow flakes. And so any leaf that's quite big will very likely turn into a yellow flake and will be sorted afterwards. So in 2016, we didn't sort the yellow flakes that well, and that was fine, but this year we can say that the sorting work was a bit better. Some of the tea we sorted by hand when there wasn't too many huangqian, and some of the tea we sorted with a machine. Well, in Jingmai there are maybe 5 or 6 big sorting machines now. Well, it's the size of a room, and it's doing a pretty good job actually at sorting the yellow flakes. When they started using them maybe 2 years ago, we had a lot of broken leaves. The sorting would be clean, but a lot of good tea would be sorted along with the yellow flakes. But it seems that since then they kind of improved probably they improved their parameters with that machine, and that makes machine sorting quite a decent option. Okay, I'm gonna keep those 2 teas here, so that we don't forget which one is which. And I have my hot water here, and I'm gonna rinse the tea. So you don't need to rinse the tea for a long time, especially in young tea. This should be about okay. For older teas you might want to rinse them a bit more, because due to age they might have more dust on the leaves. So you can see that here the tea soup is quite similar. It's a little bit redder on this one, on the left one. So I just use that rinse to preheat the cups. And it's time to smell the leaves. So here we have a much richer flavor profile in this tea. It has a much stronger smell than the Shanghai. And this smell is quite typical of autumn tea. You can't really have this smell in spring tea. That's one of the favorite moments of a tea session, you know, smelling the leaves just after the rinse. Usually the fragrance is very pungent at that point of the session. Okay, time for the first brew. So you see, when I pour water in the gawan, I like to pour on the sides and make circles. I'm not sure it really has a use in terms of taste, but it relaxes me, so be it. So maybe 20 seconds will be good for these infusions. Again, I don't really count time. When you're used to it, you just do it by feel. And you don't have to be extremely accurate on your brewing times, I think, because, well, you will just get the tea at different volumes of intensity. And when you have good tea, generally you can still enjoy it, even if it's a bit too strong for your taste. So when smelling the leaves when smelling the wet leaves on the first brew, we get less fragrance than just after the rinse. And at this point, it's the first time I brew them side by side, so I haven't really prepared this video, you know. I don't really know what it's gonna taste like, and well, you get my feedbacks live. Okay, again we have two different smells. This one is a bit more fruity, I would say, less complex, but both are not very obvious when just smelling the tea soup. And it's not important, it shouldn't be too obvious. Okay, we get a good bitterness that stays for maybe 3 seconds. I can feel the redness in my mouth, so this tea was processed a bit on the redder side, I would say. Not too much, but a little bit on the redder side, rather than what we're used to making. Okay, I like that first cup. I would say the astringency is a bit high on the sides of the tongue. You get both bitterness and astringency. The bitterness disappears after 2 or 3 seconds, which is quite comfortable in the mouth. It leaves sweetness, but you get that astringency that remains. It's not too high at this point, but generally it shouldn't be anyway in the first brew. So let's see how that tea will develop as we go. We still get that really nice smell here. So on this one we get a more oily mouthfeel, more full-bodied. Again, that fragrance that I got when smelling the dry leaves, we get it in the mouth here, from the sides here. There is some bitterness too, and a little bit of stringency, not as high as this Shanghai. Okay, I'm not gonna drink this because I prefer to just go over several brews quite quickly and without being tea drunk. Okay. Now I can already feel quite good. I can feel there's stuff going on in my mouth, you know, like it's active. I like to say that the tea feels active in the mouth. And a little bit refreshing. I start to be a bit refreshed in the throat. Not too much, of course, because usually Huigan only comes after a couple of brews. But for some teas, they can come very early, and especially Jingmai Gushu has this reputation to have quite a fast Huigan. If you compare to Bulangshan tea, I think that the Huigan in Bulangshan doesn't come so fast. You have to brew it a couple of times, but then probably the Bulangshan Huigan will be stronger than what you'll get in Jingmai. At least if you get those good teas like Lao Manre or Lao Banzong. So why is the tea in autumn redder than spring tea? Well, it's just because I would say in spring you have to look at the ratio between the leaves, like the foliar material, the leaves, and the stems that's in the middle of the leaf. And in spring you have quite a thick leaf compared to the stem, which makes it easier to fry in the wok, because when you're doing the shaching in spring, the leaf and the stem will cook almost at the same time. But in autumn, you get a high difference between the stem and the leaf. So the problem is in autumn is, since you get thick stems and thin leaves, either you will overcook the leaves and you'll get a lot of huangpian, of yellow flakes, either you won't cook the stems enough, and after drying they will turn red. So we try to get a fine balance between those two problems. You can see that some of the stems are reddened, but not too many. It's almost impossible to avoid in autumn, and that's one of the characteristics. So second brew now. Time to drink. First the Shanghai. Quite the same impression as the first one, but a bit more powerful. Both the good sides and the bad sides, like the bitterness is a bit stronger now, but the astringency follows, and now I can feel my tongue is astringent, you know. But it flows down pretty well. When you're trying that Pu-erh tea, don't drink too fast, because you want to let time for the tea to flow down and get that aftertaste to come out. So you know, when you see those Indian tea tasters who just drink like 50 different teas in a row, this is just designed to test the tea very quickly, like just to see if it has any defect, any obvious defect, like a big processing issue, smoky taste and things like that. But you're not going to establish a real profile, you're not going to describe the tea by using such a method. The Gushu has a more complex fragrance than the Shanghai, but in terms of intensity I would say that both are about the same in terms of fragrance. Then the Gushu seems to have a more active mouthfeel. I'm gonna get a second cup of these two, and then we're gonna go on to the third brew. But what I like here is the bitterness and quite harmonious mouthfeel actually. It's good to have a bit of bitterness in this tea. Honestly, I didn't expect that. But now this tea is only, well, 1 or 2 months old, so it's going to change a lot. So the review I'm making now is just for this time. And you know that Pu-erh tea can change quite dramatically in a matter of weeks, especially when it's young. So that's why it's also quite hard for me to write the descriptions of the teas on Farmer Leaf, because I know the description won't be accurate in 3 or 4 months. But well, we have to describe it in some way, and then I try not to be too accurate, because I know the more accurate you are at one point in time, and well, the less precise the less relevant your description will be in the future. I think the important in the description is just to describe the general character, the personality of that tea. Well, when you get a young tea, you can define its character and maybe make guesses about how it might change. Of course, it will depend a lot on the environment and to some point luck, you know. Again, stronger bitterness than the last brew, which is also followed by astringency on the side of the mouth. And this one stays about the same, which is quite pleasant. What I like in those two teas is the clean feel. They both feel clean when they go down the throat. But I must say that they leave your tongue a little bit, well, astringent. So in general, it's normal for autumn tea to have a lighter mouthfeel than spring tea. And that's one of the characteristics of autumn. They are also less long brewing, you know, less endurant. But I think one of the advantages they have over spring tea is the fragrance. So if you're the kind of person who likes good fragrance in Pu-erh tea, I would recommend to try some young autumn teas because the fragrance is very special. So these productions are quite small. Actually, during this autumn we had a hard time sourcing fresh leaves because the output is quite low this year. In total, I think we made 60 kilograms of Gushou and something like 80 or 90 kilograms of Shanghai, which is a bit less than last year. Oh, this year an interesting difference is that the Gushou price was a bit cheaper than last year's, while the Shanghai was a little bit higher. So on Farm Olive you can see that our Gushou cake is a bit cheaper than last year, but there's less price difference between the Gushou and the Shanghai this year than last year. The Shanghai is a bit more expensive than last year, but I think we made a progress in quality for the Shanghai. So for making that Shanghai, we sourced mainly from the natural tea gardens of Dapingzhang, you know, which are on the top of Jingmai mountain. Altitude in itself is a factor, of course, but there's something else that influences the quality of tea. It's like, where is the tea plantation located in the mountain, independently of altitude. Tea grow gives better quality on poorer soils. Well, logically you should get better tea on the top of the mountains because usually due to geophysical processes you have more sandy soil at the top of the mountains. So I don't only look for high altitude, I also like to source tea that are on the upper slopes, which on the largest mountains is not possible because on the tallest mountains in Yunnan, maybe they peak, I mean where there is tea, and like Wuliangshan, those kind of mountains, they generally peak at like 3,000 meters. So there's no way you're going to grow tea on the top of the mountain. So of course the tea is grown at high altitude there, but on the down slopes you should get soils that contain a bit more clay there than what's on the top of the mountain. So yes, those autumn teas, don't expect to get like over 10 brews from them. You can get some enjoyment from brewing many steepings, but I think they offer, the autumn teas offer less change over the brews than spring tea. But I would say for a daily drinker, autumn tea gives you a better price for value than spring tea. The weather was quite rainy during this season. Well, the rainstorms were never too severe, but we had an almost permanent, like constant light rain. At least we got rain every day, or when it didn't rain, the weather was still overcast, very cloudy, so it proved hard to dry tea, especially in September. So in September, we were limited by our drying spaces, because if there's no sun, then you want to spread your leaves very thin on the mats so that they will still dry just through diffusion, you know. So in September, typically the tea would take 2 days to dry, and that's still okay, but if it's not dry on the third day, then you're going to get into serious problems, like you'll have microorganisms develop on the tea, you know, just like laundry that you forget in the washing machine. After a couple of days you will have this really nasty smell, and this is just the smell of microbial activity. So you get the same in the tea, along with a muddy tea soup. Well, you basically get undrinkable tea, so you can forget about selling it. And we got a batch like this. I think we had to, we had to throw maybe 7 kilo of Gushou. That's too bad, but well, it's expected. It has to happen sometimes, because it didn't get dry in time and turn bad. So that's why it's important to control each batch, you know. If you want to make a good quality cake, you shouldn't blend all of your production together, you have to keep every batch separate, and just before you're going to press your cakes, you just blend those teas together, but you have to try each batch and make sure that they reach a certain standard. And if you think that the tea doesn't fit for your cake, then just separate it and deal with it in a different way, you know. For example, we probably had like 25 bags, you know, of gushu, and I think I sorted out three of them just because, so one of them was muddy and two others were just not good enough. I don't know what was the problem with them, but they weren't good, you know. I tried them several times, and I thought that including them in the blend would decrease the quality of tea. And that's something I think that many tea makers don't do. Like, well, they think, okay, this batch is not so good, I'm gonna put it anyway, and the bad taste is gonna be diluted, you know, through the but actually it's not true really. When you put something bad into your good tea, well, the quality can drop dramatically. You have much higher value if you have like 100 kilo of high quality tea and 10 kilo of shitty tea that you can't sell, than if you have 110 kilo of medium tea. Interestingly, in that gushu there's a kind of persistent bitterness building up. Well, it's not persistent, but it lasts longer than usual and kind of turns into astringency. And this bitterness sometimes can come from oxidation. Now I've got some huigan from those two teas, but it's not excessive, sure, huh? It's not like spring gushu or things like that. But at least from that autumn gushu, you do expect some decent umami taste, good oily mouthfeel, and some huigan. And so, of course, when I say gushu, I mean mixed pickings. Yeah, because as you know, in Jingmai, when we say gushu, it means big and small trees picked together. And if you want only the big trees, you have to ask for danju, like single trees, which is not only one tree being picked, it's just a couple of big trees being picked together. There's a difference. There's a difference in, especially in mouthfeel and huigan, and also cha qi. So we've brewed this tea 5 times. We could brew it again. Well, I made my brews quite strong. I like to taste strong tea because it's easier to see the good sides and the bad sides of tea when it's brewed strong. Well, in a normal setting, I would say these two tea, well, the Shanghai, I guess you can brew it maybe 6 or 7 times. I feel like it's almost done. And the gushu might be going for 10 times, or, well, the number of infusions, it really depends on how strong you like your tea. So as a conclusion, well, these teas are processed redder than the spring teas. So this is due to the leaf to stem thickness ratio that we talked about. And also another thing I didn't mention is that at the beginning of the production run in early September, we processed the tea in the evening, so the tea only got a couple of hours, maybe 4 hours of withering, and it came out that the tea that we made was very astringent, because naturally in autumn, well, this autumn 2017, we got quite astringent raw material. So we decided, in order to reduce astringency, to process the tea on the second day in the morning. So in that case, the tea would probably receive like 12 to 14 hours of withering, and that did decrease astringency, but of course it contributes to a redder tea because you get a longer withering time, a longer time for the tea to oxidize. Okay, so now I'd like to talk about the two gift boxes that we have released on Farmer Leaf. So in spring 2017, well, we got a very small batch of very special tea because it's tea that comes from big trees that grow on Tappingjiang, on quite a famous area of Tappingjiang. Getting access to that material was quite unexpected because usually for those big trees the tea buses fight, you know, to get access to that material. But well, it's thanks to a relative of Yubai who owns those tea gardens and allowed us to pick those big trees to make a very premium production. So we got about 3 kilograms of Mao Cha from those big trees, and we pressed them into dragon pearls, dragon balls. So you have a gift box of 9 dragon balls and a gift box of 18 dragon balls. So this is really nice tea. I had very good sessions, especially if you like good Huigan and Chachi, and that tea is very long brewing. I mean, well, if a friend comes over, I can brew that tea and I'm sure it's gonna last for 2 hours, 2 or 3 hours, you know, if you brew it while talking and things, and it makes you slowly tea drunk, and I love that feel. So this is one of the best productions, well, let's say one of the most expensive productions that we made this year. We also made actually two real single trees. Like we got 2 really big trees on Tappingjiang that we harvested. Well, we just harvested 1 tree. In one case we got 1.2 kilo, and in another 800 grams of dried tea. Well, I'm not releasing those teas right now because I feel honestly they aren't worth it. I mean, if I sold them, I would have to put a high price tag on them because the material was really expensive. You know, you have to book and pay, and you have to pay for the tree actually. And honestly, I think it's not worth the price I would need to ask for that tea. The taste is not worth it for now. So I think it's also a rule in that Pu-erh tea business is that whatever the claims or the claimed quality of the tea, you still need a good price for value. And in this case, I think the price is a bit too high compared to the taste you get. So I'm aging it now in clay jars, and when I will consider it good enough to justify its price, then I will put it on Farmer Leaf. And if it never happens, well, no problem, I will just keep it like this. The last thing I'd like to show you is a couple of weeks ago I added that cake, which is yellow flakes. It's Huangken from spring 2017. Actually we pressed it in summer, but I didn't put it on Farmer Leaf. Well, just because I wanted to wait a little bit. And well, you can see the material. So this is the same quality as our Gulan tea, but it's the yellow flakes, so it's old leaves. And the taste is different. Of course, you have less fragrance, but quite a decent mouthfeel, good sweetness. Overall, yellow flakes make excellent price for value if you're into this type of tea, because of course the yellow flakes come quite cheap compared to standard material, and they can be pretty good. So that's about it for today. I hope you enjoyed this video. I'm not used to shooting those kind of tasting sessions, but if you like to go over a specific tea Well, let me know that in the comments if you like that kind of tea description video. I can make other videos like this, and feel free to subscribe to our channel and put a little thumbs up on the video. And yeah, that's it for today. I hope you will enjoy those teas, and I wish you a good day. Goodbye.